Two-time PGA champion Justin Thomas joins us now at the 107th PGA Championship. Justin, welcome to your 10th PGA Championship. This week marks the first PGA here since 2017 when you won your first Wanamaker Trophy. What do you remember about that week?
Obviously a lot of great memories. It's I'd say is a little different than other majors, considering it's a venue and a course that we play yearly. For the Wells Fargo, now the Truist, so it's a tournament or it's a course that have had a lot of like a lot of us had a lot of rounds on, but there's definitely different parts of that week and especially Sunday that I'll always remember it's always very, very special to a first of anything, first win and obviously a first major. So it was a very, very special week.
That's great. Thank you. We'll open up for questions, starting with Dan and then Luke.
You've had a chance to win 3 of your last 4 starts. I know that it didn't go how you wanted toward the back end of Sunday, but is it starting to feel more, I know you've won so many times, but recently, is it starting to feel more comfortable being in that position?
Definitely. I feel, especially Hilton Head, and Tampa too. I'm just more patient, I'd say. I don't feel like I'm forcing the issue as much. Just trying to trust, my game and myself quite a bit more. I feel like some of the events maybe earlier this year or last year where I had a chance to win, I just felt like I maybe pressed a little too much. But it's we all want to win, and I'm no different. I just think sometimes you're in a better headspace than others to try and capitalize or to give yourself a chance, and I feel like that's kind of how it's been the last couple events.
And then is there something to not winning the Sunday before and having all those requirements that come after? It's like you were in contention, your game was there, but you got to come here on your own schedule?
I'd say so, but I'd sure as hell take the alternative. I would have much rather won and had to deal with being tired, if you will. I will always take that, but I do think you could argue that for sure, but like I said, I would have much rather been in Sepp's shoes and had a forced day off with that rain yesterday.
Justin, looking back to 2017, that was a special event for you with your dad out there, and what do you remember from that, just coming down the stretch on 18, and then does that carry over to this year, having won the last time it was here?
I hope so. It was 8 years ago. It was a completely different golf course. It was Bermuda in August versus, Overseed in May. And as much as I'd like to say yes, I think that's a bit of a stretch. But, the fact I know the golf course and have had, I feel like some success on it is definitely helpful. But in terms of 2017 and remembering Sunday, it was a lot of great memories. I'll never forget walking up 18. After I'd hit my second shot in the right rough, and I think Kiz had just bogeyed 17 maybe to have a 3-shot lead, and I felt pretty comfortable I could get it in the house at that point. And just walking up that 18th to people chanting my name and looking at the leaderboard and kind of realizing that, I was about to win this. It was a really, really cool feeling.
Luke on 6.
JT, you've been so good with your scoring wedges for so long. I'm just wondering what your process is for dialing in a 50-yard shot versus a 60-yard shot. How are you doing it?
I do it all feel. I'm not a clock system guy. I've never necessarily been that. It's really just a lot of practice and muscle memory. As I'd say obviously you've been doing it my whole life, but let alone the last, call it 5-10 years, and a lot of work with TrackMan and just, my thought and feel has always been to just feel like I'm almost taking it back as short as I can to hit it that distance. So I feel like I have the same type of acceleration through all of my shots, and that just comes with a lot of time and practice and repetition. To just kind of trust that I know if I'm hitting at 80 yards, I couldn't tell you where it is, but I just try and do it and feel that. That's really it.
And how much time are you devoting to practicing that specific area, this week, for instance?
Quite a bit. I'd say, I mean, this week's a little different, I would say, than like last week. I mean, the majority of my warm-up most weeks is wedges. When I'm home, definitely more wedges if I'm not working on technical stuff. But, this week's going to be a lot more mid-irons on the course and long irons. So I won't necessarily, grind a lot on wedges in my warm-up and try to hit numbers like last week where, on a day like Thursday, we're hitting a wedge into arguably every hole. So, but it's just something that's important because the stress it takes off your game if it's in a good place. If I don't hit a good drive or, if I need to lay up on a par 5, something where I don't feel like I need to force the issue on my second shot because I know if I get it to a decent number, I can get it up and down and move on.
Go next up to Jay, followed by Mike's 3 and then 7.
JT, the easy wisdom is that if you've won at a place before, then automatically you're going to be more comfortable at it, whether it's you here or Rory here. For you specifically, though, do you feel more comfortable at a location where you've had victory before? What does that do for your mental state coming in?
Definitely. I've been fortunate enough to have success at courses multiple times in my career. Won a couple times at Kapalua, CIMB, CJ Cup, just at places that I feel like there's something about it. I think that if you're able to get yourself in contention again, obviously it's going to differ of who is there, but I will always be able to say if I'm coming down the stretch and trying to win the tournament, is I can tell myself I've literally done this before here. And I know it's something it's kind of bizarre to that just something saying like that or something like that in your mind can be very helpful, but it is because I've hit the shots, I've made the putts, I've handled all of that mentally on this exact golf course and this exact tournament. So I think it's something that can be helpful and able to fall back on if I need type thing.
Mark?
Hey, Justin. Just curious for the success you had, as successful as you were, and to go through that stretch, those couple of years where you're searching and whatnot, and you're not getting the results out of it. How difficult was that run for you, and how gratifying is it that you have these feels back again, where you're in contention, and you feel like you can do it?
It obviously was frustrating. I wouldn't say it probably wasn't quite as long as maybe it appeared. I felt like there at the end of, was it 2023? When my year I didn't play very well, I felt like at the end of that year I started to play some decent golf and was, working on the right track. So, it wasn't like it was something, it was a couple year process. I think it's good for you in the long term. It doesn't seem like it when it's happening, and I obviously would have much rather not had a poor year than have one, but I learned a lot from it. I feel like it's something that you unfortunately have to go through some stuff like that and maybe make some wrong decisions or chase some things that you don't need to figure out down the road that you don't need to do that anymore or again. So it's there is something satisfying of kind of, I guess, figuring it out, if you will, but just a part of this game.
Just as a quick follow, do you feel better now than you were with your game and everything around you than you did even when you were winning earlier?
It's tough to say. I think that the thing you have when you're young is not that I don't have any fear now, but I was very fortunate to have success at a young age, but when you're 23, 24 years old, it's just like, what you don't have anything else to think about or to have to worry about. You don't have any scar tissue. You don't have any, experience. It's just like, hey, the PGA that I played here in 17, like it was just my third PGA I've ever played in. So it's, the only really time I had a chance to win, I was in the final group at Erin Hills earlier that year. So it's like, it's just earlier in your career, it's a different, it's similar mindset of obviously we want to win, we have a lot of fire and we work hard, but it's a different kind of thing. But I feel great about my game. I would like to think and hope I'm a more mature person and golfer. But I don't think it's fair to play the comparison game, and I just I believe and I hope, but firmly believe that some of my best is still ahead of me, and I know that I have that in there. I just have to kind of go find it and prove it.
JT, I know you're a big iPhone Notes app guy. Regarding your annual goals specifically, I'm curious, with the course that you've been to several times and had a lot of history at and success, do you actually have a physical note in your phone for Quail Hollow, or are you just going straight off great memories here?
For this event, no, I don't do anything for specific events. Just, kind of a year as a whole type thing.
And what's your early impressions of what you've seen of the course and how it's changed over the years so far?
I haven't been out yet, so I'm not sure. But knowing this place, the Wells Fargo and past has always been, the week prior to this, so it'll be very, very similar. I'm sure the rough will just be longer, and it'll be the greens will be a little firmer and faster. But that's the one thing about this place. I feel like you kind of always know relatively what you're going to get, and it's just figuring out how the golf course is playing, and then going from there type thing. But by the looks of it, it's pristine as always, and will be a great test.
Justin, Rory has played extremely well here over the years. I'm not sure how many times you've had a chance to play with him here, but why does he? Do you feel like he plays here? What is it about this course, the setup, that he plays well here?
First and foremost, he's really, really good at golf, so that definitely helps. I would argue he's the best driver of the ball I've ever seen, and that is extremely important here. But I think his shot shape, I think this golf course fits a high draw really, really well. There's a lot of tee shots, whether it's holding fairways or fitting dog legs, taking bunkers out of play, whatever it is. And then, he just has, when he's on, he has such control with that driver. It seems like he can hit it, in a window and an area that some guys are trying to hit short irons. And, that's a tremendous advantage or threat at any golf course. But I feel like a place like this where it doesn't necessarily require a lot of thought or strategy off the tee. It's generally, pulling out driver, and I need to hit this as far and straight as possible. And he's really, really good at that. So I think that's something, like I said, is an advantage at any golf course. But I think just the shot shape and that is a good combination.
We'll take a few more. Let's go to 9, 17, and then 19, please.
On Sunday night, we get your very, very immediate thoughts on how the tournament finished, but is there any element the last 2 days of going back and watching like the game tape to have some different takeaway arise from kind of how it went down?
Of this past week?
Yeah.
I'd say so. I like to. I watch, highlights of myself of that round basically after every single day. I want to, if I can just pick up on one little thing and learn, one little thing, or maybe there's, I really hit this drive well on number 7. Like, I'd love to go back and see if I can pick up anything on that, or maybe I hit this shot bad on this one, and you're not always going to see the camera angles you want, or it's not going to maybe get everything that you want, but it is helpful for me. It's more of like I feel like I can kind of, if I'm watching golf, that a replay that I'm in, I can kind of see my body language and kind of see how I look, and that's generally a pretty telltale sign for me. So that's something that, I'll watch sometimes. I'm not necessarily going to fret over it or try to dive into it as much as humanly possible, but it is something that if I could choose, I would like to see, yeah.
Did you learn anything from Sunday, from what you watched?
I didn't necessarily need to see anything. I was very, very comfortable and felt like I did a great job all day. 16 was the only thing I was a little upset with myself. I felt like after not birdieing 15, and I felt like they were both going to birdie 15, I just felt like I pushed that a little. I mentally was like, I need to make birdie here on 16, and that, unfortunately, those last 3 holes were all very difficult, but I couldn't make 4. That was the thing. A birdie would have been helpful, but I absolutely could not make 4, and I don't know if you could have walked up there and put it really in a worse place than I hit it. So that was the only thing I was upset with myself, is that I was so patient and kind of stuck to my game plan and picked my spots all day, and then I made just a little bit of an emotional decision of trying to take on a tough pin from 220 yards. Because I felt like I needed to, as opposed to just kind of letting it play out type thing.
Up top to Shane.
Justin, looking at the major parts of the game, driving, approach, putting around the green, if you were forced to trade one of those parts of the game in with anyone who's currently playing, what part of the game would it be, and who would you trade it with?
I mean, I'd go with either Rory or Scotty in their driver. Yeah.
Driving.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Great. Wrap it up at 19 with Ryan, and then Doug on 20, please.
Listen, just curious, how much are you fueled by competitive jealousy, whether it's Scotty last year, or Rory taking off the slam, like a desire to want to remind folks that you're one of the best of your generation too?
A lot. It's I remember that a lot from my first couple years on tour, and Jordan having a lot of success and playing well, and it is. I mean, over the course of your career, you're obviously it's not like when you're in college and you have someone that turns pro early and they're winning tour events and you're like, I've beaten him before, or kind of thing. It's like we obviously all beat each other quite often, but it's I have a lot of faith and a lot of ability or trust in my ability, and feel like I have confidence, and I feel like what I can do. So I told Jill after watching the Masters, it was like of course, and obviously I knew I've always wanted to win the Grand Slam, want to win all the majors, but for some reason, like watching somebody do it firsthand, it reminded me almost of like, damn, yeah, I forgot. I really do want to do that. Kind of, it's weird. It's something I think all of us. Some sort of certain people maybe hit us a little different ways in terms of jealousy or drive or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, anytime someone wins that isn't me, that if it's a friend, I'm obviously happy for him. But there's always going to be a part of me that's jealous and wishes it was me. I think you'd be kind of crazy to say otherwise.
Justin, you think of places like Oakmont next month or Wingfoot, kind of those classic U.S. Open courses. What do you think of for the PGA Championship? Is there is there one course that would be described as a typical PGA Championship course, quintessential one, or is there not?
It's a good question, but I don't think that there is, and I think that's what's kind of cool and unique about this event. I think that all the tournaments have an identity, and I think for at least the U.S. Open has seemed to, I shouldn't say that before, Oakmont has seemed to change a little bit of like, don't want anybody under par type thing, but I think Oakmont will take care of that on itself. But I think Kerry Haig does an unbelievable job of setting up golf courses in the sense of he doesn't try to do anything more than what he has. He's going to obviously give us a good test. He's going to understand that we're going to have, years like Belle Reve that are very soft, and it's going to be a birdie fest. And then we're going to go to places like Bethpage that are difficult, or we're going to go to places like Oak Hill or here. Like it's just he's treating each of them individually, and the goal isn't to try to set up a golf course to produce something in particular. I just think I want to set up a fair golf course and test to show who the best golfer is this week. And I think it's something that's very underrated, but I really do think he does an unbelievable job. And it is kind of unique and cool that the PGA seems to do that. It's people can say what they want about Valhalla. I mean, obviously I'm biased being from Louisville, but they've produced some pretty damn good championships over the years, and they did the same last year. And it's just all about getting the deserving, fitting winner, and I feel like this tournament seems to do that for the most part.
It's Louisville.
Thanks for your time, Justin. We appreciate it.